Have you ever felt that familiar pull, caught between wanting what you deserve and needing to keep a good relationship intact?
Oh, definitely. It's that feeling like you have to choose.
Right. Be soft and risk getting, well, walked all over, or be hard and maybe wreck a connection you actually value.
Yeah. We've all been there, family stuff, work deals,
Yeah.
even just figuring out vacation plans. It crops up everywhere.
It's a really fundamental challenge, isn't it? That feeling of being stuck. And it's precisely this dilemma that our deep dive today aims to tackle head on.
Exactly.
So today, we're cutting through that impossible choice. We're diving deep into a really foundational text in negotiation, getting to yes, negotiating an agreement without giving in.
Ah, Fisher and
Yeah.
Ury. Plus, Bruce Patton from the Harvard Negotiation Project.
That's the one. And they offer this powerful alternative to, the usual back and forth bargaining. They promise what they call wise outcomes efficiently and amicably.
It's a perspective shift, really. Their work moves negotiation away from being this, battle you have to win,
Yeah.
toward seeing it as a problem you solve together. Focusing on shared interests, not just digging into positions.
So our mission here is to pull out the core insights from their work, giving you a clear, actionable framework, something you can use in pretty much any negotiation.
The idea is you can get what you're entitled to, but without sacrificing relationships or, your own peace of mind.
Yeah, get ready for some real insights, I think, because we're about to unpack how to completely change the negotiation game.
Okay, sounds good. Where do we start?
Well, let's unpack this by first looking at the problem. Why do we get stuck? Most of us, when we negotiate, tend to fall into one of two traps, right? Soft or hard bargaining.
Yeah, the soft negotiator makes concessions, avoids conflict, often ends up feeling, frankly, exploited and a bit bitter.
And the hard negotiator, they see it as a battle of wills. They take extreme positions, dig in, and often end up damaging the relationship. Neither sounds great.
Not at all. And Fisher and Ury point out neither approach actually leads consistently to wise, efficient, or amicable agreements. Think about classic haggling. You know the example they use. A customer offers $15 for a brass dish. The shop owner wants $75.
Yeah.
They might settle at $37.50. But that's just a mechanical split.
Yeah.
It often leaves both sides feeling like they kind of lost something.
Yeah.
It's all about willpower, not finding a genuinely good solution.
So why does this positional bargaining, as they call it, fail so often? What's the core issue?
Well, for one thing, it's just wildly inefficient. It takes so much time because each side starts way out there, holds on stubbornly, maybe misleads the other side a bit, makes tiny concessions, only when they absolutely have to.
And it hammers relationships, doesn't it? When it becomes a contest of wills, people get angry, resentful.
Exactly. Imagine a couple arguing over a movie. It's the Maltese Falcon or we're not going out.
Yeah.
That kind of rigidity just wears down the connection.
And it gets even worse with more people involved, right? Like trying to get consensus among 150 nations or even just different departments in a company.
Absolutely. Positional bargaining with multiple parties is almost designed to create deadlock.
Plus, if you try to be the nice one, the soft bargainer, you just leave yourself wide open. The hard bargainer can just exploit that. You risk losing your shirt, as they say.
It's just not a sustainable approach, which is why they propose this alternative, principled negotiation.
Okay, tell us about that.
It's this kind of third way. It's not hard, it's not soft, it's actually both. It's hard on the merits, the substance of the issue,
Right.
but it remains soft on the people involved.
I really like that distinction. Hard on merits, soft on people. So it's about deciding issues based on, objective fairness, looking for mutual gains.
Exactly. And crucially, when your interests really do conflict, you insist on using fair standards, independent of either side just wanting their way.
What's really striking is how versatile they say it is. An all-purpose strategy.
Yeah, they argue it works everywhere. Arms control, divorce settlements, business deals.
And here's the kicker. If the other side also learns this method, it actually makes things easier, not harder, which is the opposite of most tactics.
That really is a game changer. It's like playing a different game entirely. They talk about negotiation having two levels.
Yeah.
There's the substance, what you're arguing about.
Like the price or the terms.
Right. And then there's the procedure, how you actually conduct the negotiation. Principled negotiation is about consciously choosing a better procedure.
Okay, so that sets the stage. This leads us neatly into the core of their method, the 4 pillars of principled negotiation. Let's dig into pillar number 1. Separate the people from the problem.
This is so crucial because people misunderstand things. We get angry, we take comments personally, and that can completely derail reaching a good agreement.
Yeah, the human element. It's messy.
And there are always two kinds of interests in play, right?
Yeah.
There's the substance, like the salary or the contract terms, but there's also the interest in the relationship itself.
And sometimes that relationship is actually more important, like with long-term clients or family members or colleagues you work with every day.
Definitely. The problem is these two things get tangled up. Substantive comments get taken personally. We make assumptions about the other person's intentions based on, well, very little sometimes.
The book has that great example, the foreman Campbell and the worker Jones. Campbell gives Jones what he sees as responsible assignments, thinking it's a compliment.
Right, but Jones perceives it totally differently. He thinks Campbell has it in for him, that he's being given all the dirty work.
Same actions, completely opposite interpretations. And it hurt feelings all around.
And this is where managing those people problems, perception, emotion, communication, becomes absolutely critical.
Okay, so how do you manage perception?
The key is trying to see the situation from their perspective.
Yeah.
Put yourself in their shoes. It's not about agreeing with them necessarily, but genuinely understanding their reality.
Not just the objective facts.
Exactly. Their thinking is the problem you need to work with.
Yeah.
And avoid deducing their intentions from your own fears. We tend to assume the worst, right?
Mm-hmm.
And definitely don't blame them. It's counterproductive. It just makes them defensive. Focus on the impact of the problem, not whose fault it is.
So instead of, your company messed up, you'd say something like,
Our generator broke down again, and we really need your advice on how we can minimize this risk going forward. It's collaborative, not accusatory.
that makes sense. And they also talk about acting inconsistently with their negative perceptions, kind of breaking their expectations.
Yeah, like President Sadat's dramatic visit to Jerusalem in '77. He acted like a partner, not an enemy, which shifted Israeli perceptions and involving them in the process, giving them a stake, especially when the outcome might be tough for them.
Right. If they feel like they helped shape it, they're more likely to accept it.
Exactly. Now, what about emotion?
Ah, yes. Emotions often matter more than the talk, don't they?
They really do. First step, recognize and understand the emotions, yours and theirs. Remember, they're people too, with feelings, anxieties, maybe feeling attacked.
And then, just ignore them.
No, actually make the emotions explicit. Talk about them, legitimize them. Look, the people on our side feel mistreated, and that's a genuine concern for us. Naming the emotion can help free people up to focus on the substance.
And if the other side has an outburst,
Don't react in kind, let them vent. Don't reward inflammatory behavior, but don't punish it either. Just acknowledge the feeling, perhaps suggest a break. Symbolic gestures can also help an apology, sharing a meal, small things that diffuse hostility.
okay, perception, emotion. What about communication?
This is huge. Are you really listening? Active listening is key. Pay close attention, ask them to clarify, repeat back what you think you heard, framed positively. Let me see if I follow what you're saying.
It shows you're actually trying to understand.
Precisely. And when you speak, talk about yourself and the impact on you, not about them and their supposed motivations. I feel let down works way better than you broke your promise.
It avoids putting them on the defensive again.
And simple preventative stuff helps too, like building a relationship before you need to negotiate. Face the problem together, side by side, like partners trying to solve a mutual challenge.
Okay, so separating the people from the problem is pillar 1. What's pillar number 2?
Pillar 2 is focus on interests, not positions. This is where that famous librarian story comes in.
Ah, the window argument. 2 men arguing, one wants the window open, the other wants it closed.
Right. They're arguing about their positions.
Yeah.
Open versus closed, or how much open. They get nowhere.
Until the librarian steps in.
And she asks why. Why do you want it open? For some fresh air. Why do you want it closed? To avoid a draft. Their underlying interests are different.
And the solution.
She opens a window in the next room. Fresh air comes in, but no draft hits either man. Solves the problem by addressing the interests, not the positions.
That perfectly illustrates it. A position is what you've decided you want. Like $75 for this dish.
Exactly. And interest is why you want it. Maybe it's profit for the shop owner. Maybe it's feeling like you got a fair deal for the customer. Maybe it's security, recognition. Interests are the silent movers behind the positions we take.
And reconciling these underlying interests is much more likely to lead to a good agreement than just battling over positions.
Much more likely. Because for any one interest, there are usually several possible positions that could satisfy it. And crucially, behind most opposed positions, There are often far more shared or compatible interests than conflicting ones.
Shared interests. Like what?
Think landlord and tenant. Their positions on rent might conflict, but they likely share interests in stability, having the apartment well maintained, and having a decent relationship.
Okay, so how do you actually figure out these interests, yours and theirs? They're often hidden.
You have to ask why. Why do they hold that position? What need does it serve? Put yourself in their shoes.
And also ask, why not? Why haven't they agreed to your proposal yet? What's stopping them? What do they perceive as the consequences of saying yes?
Right. You need to understand their perceived choice. And remember, people have multiple interests. It's rarely just about money. Think about security needs, economic well-being, a sense of belonging, recognition, control over one's life. These basic human needs are powerful drivers.
It helps to maybe list them out for both sides.
Definitely. Make a list. Try to prioritize.
Yeah.
Then, when you discuss interests,
How do you do that without just falling back into arguing positions?
make your interests come alive. Be specific. Use details. 3 times last week, a child was almost hit by one of your trucks near the site. That's more impactful than just saying we're concerned about safety.
And acknowledge their interests, too.
Absolutely. Show them you understand their concerns. As I understand it, your interests as a construction company are primarily about getting the job done quickly and at minimum cost. Is that right?
So you validate their interests first.
Yes. And put the problem before your answer. Explain your interests and your reasoning before you state your proposal. That way, they hear the justification first.
Look forward, not back, right? Focus on solutions, not past grievances.
Exactly. Be concrete about what could work, but stay flexible. Treat your proposals as illustrative examples, not take-it-or-leave-it demands. And always, always, be hard on the problem, soft on the people. Advocate strongly for your interests, but remain respectful and open to theirs.
Okay, that makes sense. People, then interests. What's pillar 3?
Pillar 3 is all about creativity. Invent options for mutual gain. This is often where negotiations stall because people just aren't very good at inventing options under pressure.
Why is that? What gets in the way?
Several things. One is premature judgment. We censor ourselves, afraid of looking foolish or giving away information if we suggest something half-baked.
Mm-hmm. And we tend to look for that single right answer too early.
Yeah, the single answer trap. We tried to narrow the gap between positions immediately, which kills creativity. Then there's the assumption of a fixed pie.
The idea that there's only so much to go around, so your gain must be my loss.
Exactly. That either thinking. And finally, there's this sort of short-sighted self-concern. Solving their problem is their problem. We don't focus enough on finding solutions that also appeal to the other side's self-interest.
So how do we overcome these obstacles? How do we actually get creative?
Brainstorming is key, but it needs to be done right. Ideally, separate the inventing from the deciding. Maybe brainstorm first, just with your own side. Set a clear purpose, keep the group small, maybe change the environment, keep it informal.
And during the session,
Physically sit side by side, facing the problem maybe on a whiteboard. This reinforces the "we're tackling this together" idea and the absolute golden rule. No criticism,
no judgment.
none. Encourage wild ideas, the crazier the better at this stage. Record everything visibly so everyone can see it. The goal is quantity and variety first.
And then you evaluate.
Right, after the storm, you go back, start the most promising ideas, maybe try to improve them, and then set a time to evaluate and decide.
Can you brainstorm with the other side?
It's harder, but potentially very valuable. You have to be clear it's not negotiation, it's brainstorming possibilities. Maybe frame ideas as questions or possibilities, not firm proposals.
And beyond brainstorming, how else can we broaden options?
Think about varying the scope or strength of an agreement. Could it be weaker? Stronger? Could you break the problem into smaller pieces? Agree on some things now, others later.
And look for ways to dovetail differing interests. Right. That sounds intriguing.
It's based on the idea that differences aren't always problems. Sometimes they're opportunities. Vive la difference,
Yeah.
as I say. Look for things that are low cost for you but high benefit for them, and vice versa.
Like what kind of differences?
Differences in resources, maybe beliefs about the future, different values placed on time like an installment plan, different forecasts like a baseball player's salary based on performance, or even different attitudes towards risk.
So you actively look for these differences to trade on.
Exactly. A good technique is to put several options on the table that are roughly equal value to you and ask them which one they prefer. Their choice tells you something about their underlying interests, and you can then try to refine that preferred option.
And this leads to the final part of Pillar 3. Make their decision easy.
Yes. Ultimately, you need them to say yes. So think about the specific person whose decision you need. What would make it easy for them?
Like crafting a yesable proposition, something clear, simple, operational.
Precisely. Don't make it overly complex. Draft possible agreements to show how it could work. Make it easy to implement. And try to make the solution appear legitimate use precedents, objective standards. Offers usually work better than threats.
Okay, that's a lot on inventing options. People, interests, options. What's the fourth and final pillar?
Pillar 4 is insist on using objective criteria. Because let's face it, even with the best intentions, some interests just conflict. Win-win doesn't mean everyone gets everything they initially wanted.
Right. Sometimes there's a genuine disagreement over, say, price or terms.
And deciding those conflicts based purely on a contest of will, who's more stubborn, who's willing to be unreasonable, is really costly.
How so?
Well, it's inefficient, it damages the relationship as we discussed, and it often leads to unwise agreements that don't stick because one side feels forced into it.
So the solution is?
Base the decision on objective criteria. Fair standards, independent of the sheer will of either side. Things like market value, scientific judgment, professional standards, efficiency, precedent, community practice, what a court might decide.
Things you can both potentially agree are fair measures.
Exactly. The benefits are huge. Agreements based on objective criteria tend to be wiser, fairer, and more durable. And it protects the relationship because you're discussing standards, not just trying to push each other around.
Can you give an example of this in action?
A great one is the Law of the Sea Conference. India and the U.S. were deadlocked over fees for deep-sea bed mining. Couldn't agree. They brought in an MIT economic model. Both sides came to accept the model as objective. It helped them understand the real financial implications of different fee structures, moving them beyond just political posturing. They reached an agreement based on that shared objective understanding.
So how do you develop these criteria? Before or during the negotiation?
Ideally, think about potential objective standards in advance. If you're negotiating the price of a used car, what are the potential standards? Original cost less depreciation, current market value, blue book value, repair costs needed.
And you need standards that apply fairly to both sides?
Yes. The test of reciprocal application is crucial. Would you feel the standard was fair if they were using it against you? You also need fair procedures, like one cuts the other chooses for dividing something or using a third party.
Okay, so you've identified some potential criteria. How do you actually use them in the negotiation, especially if the other side just wants to haggle positions?
Frame every issue as a joint search for objective criteria. If they state a firm position, don't reject it outright. Ask, what's the theory behind that price? Or, how did you arrive at that figure?
So you're inviting them to justify their position based on some standard?
Exactly. You reason and remain open to their reasoning. Behave like a judge searching for the fairest approach. If there are multiple criteria, discuss which is most relevant.
And the key is never yield to pressure, only to principle.
That's the core strength of this approach. It's much easier and more persuasive to stand firm on a principle of fairness or an objective standard than it is to just seem stubborn. You're shifting the game away from positional bargaining towards a principled discussion.
That Frank Turnbull insurance claim example in the book really brings all four pillars together, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He was facing a hostile landlord, Mrs. Jones.
Right, over a car claim and maybe unfair rent. Instead of just arguing dollars, Turnbull deliberately used principled negotiation. He acknowledged her feelings, people, clarified his interest was fairness, interests, suggested looking at objective measures like market value and precedent criteria, and implicitly kept options open.
And by doing that, he reframed the whole conversation from a battle into a problem-solving exercise, got a fair settlement, and kept the relationship from completely imploding.
It's a perfect illustration.
Okay, so those are the four pillars. People, interests, options, criteria. They sound great in theory, but what about the real world, the yes but moments?
Ah, yes, the tough challenges. What if they are genuinely more powerful? What if they just refuse to play this principled game? What if they resort to dirty tricks?
Let's take the power issue first. What if they just have way more leverage?
Well, reality check first. No negotiation method can magically overcome a massive power imbalance. As they say, you can't expect to buy a $1,000 tea set with only $100 in your pocket, no matter how skilled you are.
Right, so what can you do? People often talk about having a bottom line.
Yeah, and we set bottom lines to protect ourselves from making a really bad deal, which seems sensible.
Yeah.
But the authors argue bottom lines are actually quite limiting. They're rigid positions by definition. They can stop you from seeing creative solutions that might be better than your predetermined minimum. And they can prevent you from listening and learning during the negotiation.
So if not a bottom line, what protects you?
Your BEAD ETNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Okay, break that down.
Your BTNA is simply the best course of action you can realistically take if you fail to reach an agreement in the current negotiation. It's your walkaway alternative
And why is that so important?
because it's the only standard you should use to measure any proposed agreement. Is this offer better than my BTNA? If yes, maybe accept it. If no, maybe reject it and pursue your BTNA. It protects you from accepting a deal you shouldn't and from walking away from a deal that's actually better than your alternative.
So knowing your BTNA gives you power.
Immense power. If you walk into a job interview already having another good offer, your BTNA, you negotiate from a much stronger position. Developing your BTNA involves figuring out what your alternatives are, improving the promising ones, and picking the best realistic one.
Should you reveal your BTNA to the other side?
It depends. If your BTNA is strong, better than they probably think, then yes, letting them know can significantly strengthen your hand. If your BTNA is weak, maybe weaker than they assume, then probably not.
And you should also think about their BTNA.
Absolutely. Understanding their alternatives helps you gauge how likely they are to agree. If their BTNA seems really good to them, even if you think it isn't, you might need to work on making your proposals more attractive or possibly finding ways to make their BTNA less appealing.
Okay, so a strong BTNA helps counter power imbalances. What about challenge number 2? What if they just won't play? They stick to positional bargaining, they attack your ideas, maybe they attack you.
The natural urge is to push back, right? Defend yourself, attack their position.
Yeah, meet force with force.
But that just locks you into their game positional bargaining. The alternative they suggest is negotiation jujitsu.
Jiu-jitsu? Like martial arts.
Kind of. Instead of meeting their force directly, you sidestep their attack and deflect their energy towards the problem itself. You use their push to explore interests, invent options, or look for objective standards.
How does that work in practice if they stayed a hard position?
Don't attack it. Treat it as just one possible option. Look behind it. Ask questions like, help me understand why you feel that's the right approach, or what principle is that based on?
And if they attack your ideas?
Don't defend them rigidly. Invite criticism. Ask what concerns you about that proposal, or how would that fail to take your needs into account? You can even turn it around and ask for their advice. What would you suggest if you were in my position?
Clever. And if they attack you personally? You're being unreasonable.
Recast the attack on you as an attack on the problem. Let it pass, or reframe it. You feel I'm being unreasonable. Let's look again at the issue of fairness here. What objective standard might apply? You shift the focus back to the substance.
Using questions and pauses is also part of this jujitsu.
Yes. Questions invite answers and force them to elaborate, potentially revealing interests. And silence. Well, silence can be surprisingly powerful. People often feel uncomfortable with it and jump in to fill the void, sometimes breaking a stalemate or offering new information.
Okay, that's negotiation jujitsu. What about the one-text procedure? You mentioned that earlier.
Right, this is often used when a third party is involved, but you can adapt it yourself. Think of that architect helping a couple design a house. The architect doesn't ask for their positions. They ask about their interests, space needs, light, budget, style. Then the architect drafts a floor plan, a single text.
Okay.
Then, crucially, they show the draft to the couple and ask for criticism, not concessions. What's wrong with this? How does it meet your needs?
So they're improving the draft based on interests.
Exactly. The architect takes the criticism, revises the plan, shows it again, asks for more criticism, maybe goes through many drafts. Only when the architect feels they can improve it further do they present it for a final yes or no decision.
That separates the inventing from the deciding.
Precisely. It simplifies the decision-making enormously, especially in complex multi-party negotiations. Camp David, with the U.S. mediating between Egypt and Israel, is the classic example. 23 drafts.
Wow. And you could even try starting this yourself by drafting a proposal and asking the other side just to critique it.
Absolutely. It changes the dynamic.
Okay, final challenge. What if they use dirty tricks? Deliberate deception, psychological warfare, positional pressure tactics. How do you handle those without getting suckered or resorting to them yourself?
This is about taming the hard bargainer who isn't playing fair. These tactics are basically one-sided attempts to win the negotiation illegitimately.
What shouldn't you do?
Don't just tolerate it that encourages bad behavior, but also don't retaliate in kind that just drags you down into their game and often escalates things negatively.
So what's the principled response?
Treat the tricky tactic itself as something to be negotiated. Bring it out into the open. The book suggests 3 steps. 1, recognize the tactic. Be aware of what they might be doing.
Like phony facts or claiming they have less authority than they do.
Right? Or psychological games, like staging the meeting in a stressful location, personal attacks, good guy, bad guy routines, threats, or positional pressure, like refusing to negotiate, making extreme demands, escalating demands, lock-in tactics, calculated delays, take it or leave it offers.
Okay, so first, recognize it. Step 2.
Raise the issue explicitly. Name what you see them doing, but do it calmly as an observation about the process. I notice you keep bringing up that extreme figure. Is there principle behind that number? Or if it feels like we're playing a bit of good cop, bad cop here, can we just talk based on the merits?
And step 3.
Question the tactic's legitimacy and desirability. Frame it as a discussion about the rules of the game. Is this how we want to proceed? I thought we agreed to base this on fair standards, not pressure. You negotiate about the negotiating process itself.
So you call it out, question it, and shift back to the principles. You don't accuse them directly of bad faith necessarily.
Not always necessary. Just focusing on the tactic and suggesting a better way, principled negotiation is often enough. The goal isn't to punish them, but to neutralize the tactic and get back to a fair process.
Be firm on principle, not on yielding to unfair pressure.
Exactly. It's much easier and more defensible to stand firm on a principle of fairness than it is to simply refuse an arbitrary demand. You don't want to be a victim, but you also don't want to scoop to their level.
Wow, we have covered a ton of ground today. We went from the problems with soft and hard bargaining
Right, the limitations of positional fighting.
to the power of principled negotiation, those 4 pillars. Separate the people from the problem.
Focus on interests, not positions,
Invent options for mutual gain.
and insist on using objective criteria.
Plus, we tackled those tough yes buts, dealing with power imbalances using your BATNA,
Using negotiation jujitsu and the one-text procedure when they won't play fair.
and recognizing and neutralizing dirty tricks by negotiating the process itself.
It's a really comprehensive framework. And what's interesting is, as the authors point out, a lot of this isn't totally alien. You probably recognize much of it as, well, common sense on some level.
Yeah, it feels familiar once it's laid out.
This deep dive really just organizes that common sense into a coherent, actionable strategy. The real key, though, the real challenge and reward is putting it into practice.
Like learning a sport.
Yeah.
Right. You don't get good just by reading the rule book.
Exactly. Becoming a skilled negotiator takes conscious effort, practice, reviewing how you did, preparing beforehand. It's about deliberately choosing to play a better, more constructive game.
So as we wrap up, maybe the question for you, the listener, is what kind of game are you going to play in your next negotiation? Will you aim just to win in that narrow positional sense?
Or will you try to master a process that actually allows everyone to gain more? A process that can turn conflict into cooperation, find better solutions, and maybe even strengthen relationships along the way.
The power to change the game and to aim for those wise outcomes efficiently and amicably, well, it really is yours.